So one of the biggest misconception about buying a house with a relative is that it's always going to work out. I'm Sandy, your Nanaimo realtor, talking to you all things real estate and money related. Thanks for watching and make sure to subscribe. Today we're going to talk about co-ownership. So the most common arrangement for co-ownership is between spouses or common law. But next in line would probably be between parents and their children. So with co-ownership between spouses, both names are just on the title. Usually there's no division of who gets what because our law is very equitable. However, when it's co-ownership between parent and children, you can't set an agreement that could be registered on title because most likely parents are going to contribute a bit more than children. And so when it's time to exit, then the parent's portion is usually larger and then protected. And the other thing why co-ownership agreement is so important when it comes to owning property with family is because in the case of parents and children, sometimes parents pass away. Then other siblings or other relatives who thinks they have a claim on the parent portion of it is clearly identified. And so this not only protects the parents, it also protects the child or children whose names are also on the title. When I look at co-ownership between siblings, I treat it sort of like friendship. And if you're on great terms with your sibling and you're buying a property together, you should also establish a co-ownership agreement, who's putting in what. And it's not always equitable because maybe one person's living in the property or one person has more financial means, so they're contributing more in the long run. And if you like this relationship and you want to maintain this relationship forever, those things should be clearly identified. So in case when some problems arise or when you're ready to exit, there is no miscommunication about or hard feelings about who put more in, who should be taking more out, and so on. So co-ownership is really great for lots of reasons and it becomes very affordable. However, you need to have some very difficult questions when you're considering co-ownership with a friend or a family, and you need to discuss timeline. Who is going to want to exit first? What about some of the expenses that might arise? Do you both have the capabilities to pick up those expenses? And who's going to be looking after the property? Those are all really important questions to discuss ahead of time. And not only that, but to put into an agreement so that everybody clearly understands their role in this investment opportunity. So some of the warning signs that I would look out for is, does my partner or the person that I'm going to co-own with have a stable job, steady income? What is their financial habits like? So they can be very well off, but they don't pay bills on time. That could be an issue. Or they're not very responsive. They don't participate or they participate too much. So you want to see if those things are aligned with what your goals are. So the extra cost for doing a co-ownership would be the co-ownership agreement. And that just depends on the lawyer or notary that you choose that's putting the agreement together. Normally they range from a few $100s to a couple of $1,000s depending on how complex the agreement is. But usually if it's just something that's going to be split in the middle, some basic guidelines and time frames, a lawyer or notary can easily do it within a couple of weeks. So on Vancouver Island, one of the trends that we're seeing with parents that own acreage homes and they have adult children, they consider building a second home on the same property, not stratifying it, but just putting another, maybe a cottage or another dwelling onto the existing parcel. That cost usually is fronted by the adult children. And how do we protect that investment? Well, the co-ownership agreement would resolve that problem. So the parent who owns the home would still own the home and property. However, a new portion would be registered on title, and that pertains to the structure that's being added and that's being fronted funded by the adult children. And at the time of sale in the future, if there's a co-ownership agreement, it's very clear what the proportion is, how much was invested. So when you're selling, you can see who's owed what and where the proceeds should be divided. So in my experience, the biggest co-ownership mistake is one that I've made personally, which is I owned property with friends and we did do projects together where we collaborated and it was great. However, there were times when we disagreed and it was very costly, I think, because we could not decide on which direction to go. You have to kind of consider that. But in my case, it was more for quick investment, which is like a flip that you see on TV. But normally that doesn't happen if you're looking for a long-term investment. I would say probably the biggest hurdle is to have multiple parties not agree. So my recommendation is you can create an email address and you email yourself. Both of you guys email yourself all the receipts, documentation in the course of ownership. And this way it's very clear at the time when you need to exit or if you want to buy somebody out, then there's no mistake who spent what. You don't need to search for anything. The receipts, all of these things are great for keeping the relationship kosher, but at the same time, it adds value. The receipts and money that you put into your property, it all adds value at the end when you're ready to sell. So if you watched the video this far, that means you're probably considering co-ownership. And in my experience, I think that co-ownership is great in 2026 for a lot of reasons. Especially for younger people, this is a great way for you to get into the housing market. Just make sure the person that you're bringing in is financially stable. So if you're bringing in mom or dad, usually that's a fantastic choice. And in 2026, this is a great year for you to build your financial wealth. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're thinking about co-ownership in Nanaimo, book that call with me and let's make your dreams come true.